This review is coming from a Monster Hunter veteran who played from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite up to Monster Hunter Rise. And with that stated, I also want to include that this is my first Soul-Borne game. Elden Ring is the most anticipated game and the most hyped game of 2022. The first trailer of Elden Ring was released back then at the E3 2019 convention. And everyone got hyped seeing George R.R. Martin and Hidetaka Miyazaki collaborate on this project. I'll say it now that Elden Ring is a fun, challenging, and a stressful game with an open world concept and a deep lore for the community to discover. So I'm going to divide this video in 4 parts. The first is going to be the gameplay and combat. The second one is going to be the open world concept of the game. The third one is going to be the story. And the last one is going to be my overall experience. So let's start with the gameplay and combat experience. Elden Ring has 10 base classes for you to choose from. And that gives a lot of freedom for players on what playstyle do they prefer. Overall, these are just base classes to guide you on how you will play your character. But once you reach a certain level, you can respec your stats and go to much preferred playstyle that you want. The phase of the combat can be based on how you play the game. For some players, they can go a bit faster phase playstyle, or you can go prefer the unga bunga style. That's okay. That's up to you. Or if you prefer to play like a mage that will spam a lot of magic until the enemy dies, that's pretty okay as well. Like I said, it still prefer on how you want to play the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, there are players who are like the veteran ones, or who are really good at dodging, parrying, punishing the enemies for facing you in combat. That's also amazing as well. Overall, combat in Elden Ring has complete freedom for players to choose from, unlike in other games where combat and gameplay are just very linear. So here are the cons for the gameplay and combat. There was a time that the controls are a bit non-responsive, and trying to parry enemy attacks was a bit difficult in my opinion. And at first I was disappointed because I feel like I'm controlling a 50-year-old person. But after knowing there's a difference between light, medium, and heavy load on your equipment that also affects on how you dodge and the iframe mechanics, all I can say that hopefully in the future, From Software, they will add a tutorial for this equipment load, so new players would have a better understanding of this mechanics or mechanics, and to be informed at the start of the game. Now, let's move on to the open world concept of the game. All I can say is that the open world is just amazing. Unlike two other Dark Souls or Soul-Borne franchise game, where it's very quite linear, and sometimes you will get stuck on certain area because you cannot defeat the boss. Here in Elden Ring, you can explore areas, get amazing weapons in the early game, which will help you progress in the story. In my opinion, I really like this idea, making it more welcome for new players to play the Soul-Borne franchise. But then again, it will be a bit different story once you reach later part of the game. So yeah. So yes, the open world is amazing. However, the dungeons, the catacombs, and the caves in Elden Ring are a bit meh. Because to be honest, most of them are just copy paste, and they just have different gimmicks and enemies. To be honest, this is really, I'll just be honest here. This is just really disappointing to see. This is the most really disappointing part in Elden Ring. Once you go to the catacombs, they're just copy paste of one another. I really hope Elden Ring could do something about this in the future as well. So yes, the open world is amazing. However, the dungeons, the catacombs, and the caves in Elden Ring are a bit meh. Because to be honest, most of them are just copy paste, and they just have different gimmicks and enemies. To be honest, this is really, I'll just be honest here. This is just really disappointing to see. This is the most really disappointing part in Elden Ring. Once you go to the catacombs, they're just copy paste of one another. I really hope Elden Ring could do something about this in the future as well. Now for the story part. I know some of the players are a bit disappointed in this part, knowing it was written by George R. R. Martin, and think that Elden Ring is just another rip-off story of Lord of the Rings. In To be honest, it's also my first impression as well. However, that's not true because Elden Ring is not your typical RPG game where NPC just gives you a quest and you just go here and there. What they did is that NPC gives you clues. So you need to pay attention to the NPC's dialogue, to the item descriptions or notes that where it will guide you for the next part of the quest. And to me, this is good. It's more storytelling rather than skip the dialogue and then I'll just check my quest menu and go there from point A to point B. Well, I know it's not for everyone, but for me this works and I really like it. However, as I said, with this kind of quest line, not everyone will like it because most of the time you just want to skip the dialogue and get into the quest line. But that's not how it works in Elden Ring, which is for some players, they might find this as an inconvenience and doing more work where they just want to play the game and not to do more research about it. Now for the last part, my overall experience. To me, as a Monster Hunter fanboy, Elden Ring is a game that will push you to the limit. The boss fights are great. The vast open world experience is extravagant. Gives the players a lot of freedom with a great storyline that you really have to work hard for it. With all said and done, Elden Ring is an amazing game. If you want to play a game that will push you beyond the boundaries with a good storyline to follow, I highly recommend this game, especially if this will be your first Soul-Borne series. And with that said, I give Elden Ring an 8 out of 10. I know there's some work to be done, especially the catacombs, the caves, or overall the dungeons in Elden Ring. But I'm really looking forward for future DLC or even Elden Ring 2. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like, consider subscribing and I'll see you on my next video.